I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're speaking with Tom Holden, who is a storyteller with a passion for crafting gripping narratives that delve into the dark underbelly of society. His latest work, Chasing the Bullet, is a thrilling tale set against the backdrop of the 2008 global banking crisis, following the protagonist, Reuben Freeman, on a journey through a labyrinth of deceit, murder, and corruption in London. We're delighted to have Tom join us here today on Spotlight. We ask viewers like you at home to support writers like him by subscribing to our channel. Tom, thanks so much for being our guest today.
Thanks, Logan. Yeah, glad to be speaking with you.
Great to be speaking with you as well. This is quite a book. Another chapter on 2008, but it did change the world in a lot of ways, especially the financial world. Tell me a little bit about your inspiration for Chasing the Bullet.
Well, yes, it's obviously a well-known known event. I think it's spawned a number of books and movies, but I guess everyone's got their own personal memories of it. And I've spent some time as a financial investigator in the past, and that this book draws on some of those experiences, as well as trying to, create a work of fiction that also entertains and informs the reader, and also brings some of the background to those events in 2008.
Absolutely. Now, you talk about being a financial investigator. Is that sort of like doing a forensic accounting or something like that? Or is that actually tracking down people who are culpable for misdeeds on Wall Street and beyond?
Well, it's more forensic investigation, mainly within financial businesses. Yeah.
And very interesting indeed. Let's give the folks at home an overview of what Chasing the Bullet is about. I know they know it's about 2008, but tell them a little bit more about the story.
So the events are set within a major bank within the UK. A lot of it revolves around mortgage fraud, which was very widely reported at the time. But it also sets a story within the wider the sort of global crisis. We bring in characters. There's a Chinese character that comes into play within the story, and also some US elements as well. And it tries to give a picture of the sort of global influences that were present at those times, and also some characters that hopefully people can relate to, and see as credible.
Absolutely, absolutely. Is Reuben Freeman a little bit of you?
Yeah, a little bit of me. Yeah, not all of me, but a little bit. You pick up things from people's characters, people you've met, people you've worked with, but also there's some imagination as well to draw each character. Yeah.
What does the phrase "chasing the bullet" mean?
Well, I guess it's the use of that phrase is it was a time, I think, when people were taking outrageous risks and beyond what was the market and businesses at that time were capable of coping with. Yeah, I mean, the classic example, I guess, is Lehman Brothers. Yeah, but there were many other businesses that suffered similar fates. People were taking excessive risks and way out there, and eventually, a bit like a pack of cards, the whole system imploded.
And
so
as you mentioned,
it's conveying that that sort of headlong dash towards destruction.
Exactly, towards ruination. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And like you mentioned in the beginning of the interview, mortgage bankers were actually under pressure from the government to make risky loans. And that, in part, was part of the problem.
yeah, yeah, exactly. What should be reasonably, moderate risk type business, which is mortgage lending, had become like incredibly complicated and yeah, very high risk, and people were taking more and more risk as they try to keep the returns coming in.
And money doesn't just disappear. One person loses it, but another person gains it. So some fortunes were lost during the 2008 crisis. For other people, fortunes were made. Mortgages were taken out on worthless properties that people just walked away from and pocketed the cash. So there really is a web of deceit and intrigue here, right?
Yeah, and that's where the Chinese character comes into play within the book, and he is operating at, if you like, the opposite end of the social spectrum to sort of corporate banking, but equally he's running a sort of successful operation, if you like, and in some ways he is the one of the people who sort of come out of the events in a stronger position in some ways. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
Now, who would play Reuben Freeman in the movie Chasing the Bullet?
Or that's a difficult one. I'm a great admirer of Cillian Murphy. Yeah, I know it's
Oh yeah.
topical with Oppenheimer. We that he's been on TV screens in the UK in Peaky Blinders over the last few years, and yeah, he would be a great character to play Reuben Freeman. Yeah,
I could see Killian. I also could see Clive Owen, you know.
yeah,
Yeah,
Clive Owen. Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah,
It would be,
definitely.
yeah.
Yeah,
So Hollywood, if you're
yeah,
listening, we've already got the
yeah.
casting done for you.
That's
So
we've got some of the key people lined up. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
have you toyed with turning this into a screenplay? Have you worked on that at all?
Well, I think that's the sort of next step. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's definitely got some, there's some elements there that I think could lend themselves to TV or movies.
Yeah,
It's quite fast paced, so that's something that's definitely on the cards for the future.
exactly. And Ruben actually encounters some exotic lovers along the way as well, correct? Tell
Yeah,
us
yeah.
about that part of the story.
Well, I guess it reflects sort of the the nature of life in London at that time. It still is a very multicultural city. I think it sort of had a high point in the early years of 21st century, going up to the Olympics, that sort of time. But there were many people from Europe in particular, but also all over the world that were just coming to London to sort of live and experience the vibe, if you like, within the city.
Exactly. Now,
Yeah.
part of Ruben's issue is that he's dealing with a lackluster police force and actually kind of
Mm.
hindering the investigation. Is that kind of analogous to the fact that government actions in general, when it came to pursuing this kind of justice, was inept?
Well, I think the police forces always tend to be struggling with volume of work and the pressure of work, lack of resources, all of these sort of things. But I think within the sort of law enforcement side, I think there was a lack of focus on some of the things that were going on, and that an
What
action was ended up being taken far too late. Yeah.
exactly? What drives Ruben to risk everything and search for the masterminds behind the murders and the financial corruption?
Well, I think it's like professional pride, I guess, but also desire to find out what is actually going on. I think what starts off as a mm, relatively innocuous set of events starts to spiral into something that's far more complicated and reflects also people within the organisation that he's working for as being corrupt. So I think that's what drives him on to try and unmask some of those people.
Absolutely. Well, here we are 15 years later after 2008. And in the United States, guess what? Banks are failing again.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the situation is in the UK. So have we learned? Are there still issues out there that need to be addressed? Are the money hungry people who and their gluttonous ways who led us down a dark alley 15 years ago still in charge in many ways?
Yeah, I mean, it was quite a shock to see banks having to be taken over and emergency measures coming in. I think we've had our own uh, fairly near to the precipice events back in the UK back in the autumn last year. With the sort of government that only lasted about a month and a half. So I think that some of the reasons for the events are different, yeah, to what happened. But I think it also shows how fragile some of these events can be, you know, and some of the banking systems can be. So got to keep your eyes open.
Exactly, exactly. The organized crime plays a role in your book. Do you feel organized crime played a role in the financial crisis 15 years ago?
So some of it, I think, is definitely the case. Yeah,
Yeah,
wherever you get that level of sort of criminality, some of it is bound to be from organized crime.
exactly.
Some of it might be down to individuals or people just taking advantage of the situation. But you know, there's clearly there was strong evidence of organized crime in parts of it.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your writing background. Is this your first novel? Tell me a little bit about that.
So this is my first novel. I'm working on a follow up one, like a sequel to Chasing the Bullet. Um, Probably going to set it slightly in a slightly different location. You know, probably outside of London, but you know, following similar sort of themes. So that's under development at the moment.
Great.
But my career is in terms of professional career has been much more in financial services and doing investigative work.
Are you still doing that work? You still working in the financial sector?
Still doing some work, yeah,
Yeah.
in that sector. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Without giving away any spoilers, do you think the story concludes with a sense of justice and closure?
I think there's some closure on the immediate events, but you know, there's also some open ends, you know, some loose ends there that you know, the thinking is to pick them up in the sequel. So there will definitely be some follow on into the second book that picks up on some of the key characters. Yeah, those who are still in the land of the living at the end. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. What was the writing process like for you? What one day you said, "Hey, I'm going to write a book," or this had been toying in your brain for a while. Tell us a little bit about that process.
Yeah, it was you know, it's one of those things which it can be difficult to get started, to actually get into the rhythm and the routine of writing a you know, maybe 100,000 words book and getting into the framework of it or mindset of it. But actually, I really enjoyed it. Once so, you know, some of the themes and the characterization started to come to life. It starts to take on its own life. It becomes almost self-generating. So I enjoyed that process, and then, you know, actually refining it and editing it. You know, it's enjoyable,
Yeah,
and it's good just to get ideas and thoughts and experiences, you know, down on paper.
absolutely. It's kind of like living in that world for a while,
Yeah.
which is kind of fun.
Yeah, you know, I think that's all part of the enjoyment of creating anything, really.
Yeah.
But you know, in this case, for me, it was a novel.
Yeah. Well, writing is a little different than most creations because it tends to be a little more solitary because you're doing it by yourself,
Yeah.
4 o'clock in the morning, whenever it is. Did you have a time to write? How long did it take you to write this book?
It took about 6 months. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, start to finish. And yeah, I mean, you can get into you can get a bit obsessed about it at certain points. You need to sort of try and stand back to look at it dispassionate. But overall, I enjoyed it, and managed to keep up the momentum to get to a suitable ending. And now it's interesting to see how what the opportunities are for things like this. The opportunity to share it with other people.
Absolutely. Who was your first reader once you were completed, or maybe did it chapter by chapter? Who were you letting read the book?
Yeah, my my family,
Mhm.
but and also sort of people involved in the process of producing books and distributing books. That sort of professional world.
Yeah. When you gave it to the family members, what was the reaction?
Yeah, I mean, I think they generally enjoyed it. A few surprises for some of the events, but I think overall, it's there to be enjoyed. And if people don't enjoy things like films or books, then they won't go back to them. So hopefully, people will enjoy it. Certainly, I think the people who've read it so far have found it entertaining.
Exactly, exactly. I was actually in The Big Short, which was probably one of
Yeah,
the biggest movies about the 2008 banking crisis.
yeah,
They didn't really tackle it the way you did with kind of this novelized adventure. I think the way you approached it is very, very good because I think it makes it exciting. I know that Adam McKay did everything in his power to make it palatable for people to sit there for a few hours and watch a movie about a banking crisis. He actually had comical little skits during the movie and different points of interest spelled out. But you've taken your spin on 2008 and turned it into an adventure, which I think was quite
yeah,
unique.
yeah. Thank you,
Yeah,
thank you.
absolutely, absolutely. And so the writing process was fun. You enjoyed that. And
Mhm.
have you already started on the sequel?
Yeah, I've planned it out, and I'm starting to write now the sort of initial few chapters. Yeah, I think once you get the first sort of 2 or 3 chapters underway, you start to get some momentum, and as long as you can get keep a sort of routine up, you can start to create something that will be hopefully potentially a longer novel. Yeah,
Mhm.
but not too long. All right.
Is there a message you wanted to convey to the audience, to the reader?
From chasing the bullet,
Yep.
I think it's I think it's just that. I think that the whole point around taking outrageous risks, that there can be some extreme consequences of that, and whilst risk taking is part of life, that there needs to be a limit. Otherwise, it can just be very destructive. And I think that if there's a moral or a message, it would be that.
Yeah. And of course, they're doing it with other people's money, so to speak, right?
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, and using other people to do it. Yeah, yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
Exactly. Well, the name of the book is Chasing the Bullet. It is a wonderful novel that revisits the 2008 financial crisis in a very unique way with an action adventure story, one that will keep you turning the pages. It is written by Tom Holden, and we're delighted to have him here as a guest today on Spotlight. Tom, before we leave you, is there anything else you'd like the folks at home to know about the book?
Yeah, I mean the book has just gone through a reprint and a republication process, and there should be a website available soon, www.tomholden.com, and we'll be doing further publicity around the book to support its republication in the near future over the next few weeks.
Wonderful. We're excited. Looking forward to that. Again, the link is tomholden.com. the author's name, and the name of the book is Chasing the Bullet. You don't want to miss it. Tom, thanks so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much. Thanks, Logan.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time. This time until next time on Spotlight.